questions. One, I guess these are sort of philosophical, and maybe you can tell me where you guys make the break. And one is, I always consider my person, my being, my own private property also, and I should not be unreasonably searched or anything like that. At what point is a concealed weapon considered private property on me versus when I'm in a car considering the car part of my personal private property? And if you say, okay, well then you can carry it at some places, not others, why do you think there's a distinction between those two?
Basically, I think it's because it's what the law says right now. If you were to ask me, do I think that we should have the ability to carry that weapon anywhere, I would say yes. But currently, what you will find with the handgun permit owners or holders in the state of Tennessee, we're characteristically the most law-abiding group of individuals you're going to find. And as long as you tell me that's the law, I'm not going to have that gun on my person or in my vehicle if you tell me that I can't. If we didn't respect the law, why would we be here in front of you now? We know across the board that there are thousands of people in the state of Tennessee who pay absolutely no attention to the law. Yeah. But by the same token, we as a group are willing to come before you and take our time and come up and to advocate for what we feel to be the right thing, even though we may have a different wish. As long as you keep the law where it is, we're going to abide by that.
Okay, that's personally. I mean, I'm pretty much a guns wide open kind of guy, pretty much for most, with very limited restrictions. But I have concerns about where does private property end and Second Amendment rights begin, and that's a question I guess is something we've been battling here completely. At what point does someone have the right outside of the state to restrict? Do you guys think someone has the right to restrict your gun ownership? I mean, if you had you were coming over to a friend's house and they said, we don't want you to carry your gun in here, is that a reasonable restriction? Or if they said, hey, this is a parking lot, we don't want your car in here if it's going to have a gun in it, is that a reasonable restriction? Or is it, if they have a secure lot versus an unsecure lot, do you think there is a limit where a person says, this is my property, I have the right? Is there a place where you guys say a person's property rights are superior to your Second Amendment rights at any point or time?
So, for the simple fact that there is no statutory restriction in the Tennessee Constitution which sets forth a trump, if you will, of property rights over the right to protect yourself. Secondarily to your question, it is laid out to the legislature. We don't have a choice in the matter, but you are charged with every restriction that you pass on the ability of the citizen to wear and bear and keep arms, in that it has to have some clear and present, concise reason to reduce crime, or else the law that you're passing is unconstitutional. If you read your Constitution and hold to the oath that you took when you had this office, it says that you must have a reason to prevent crime or reduce crime for you to have that law at all, or else it is unconstitutional. And there's nothing in there. The only mention of private property rights in the Tennessee Constitution is under the eminent domain clause, and it says that you cannot be divested of it without due process of law. There is no other time that it's mentioned in our Constitution. Now, commonly, property rights are dealt with under common law and not statutory law, but again, there's only one mention of private property rights in the Constitution, and that says that the government can't take it away without paying you for it.
Do you think at any point there's a divestment of rights of a property owner to say who they want to allow or what they are willing to accept on their property? And I'm not saying this to be against you guys. Trust me. Like I said, I just want to hear your all's point of view on this issue.
If I could add something here, I think that it's been brought up that if, for instance, if I'm an employee, and of course I'm an employer, but if I was an employee, and let's say that I was distributing literature that my employer did not agree with in my off time. Like Sam brought up about the cigarettes. I mean, some places have a strict no tobacco policy. My view would be anything that's within the confines of my car is none of my employer's business and none of anybody else's business, as long as it's legally owned and possessed. Whether that's literature, whether that's firearms, whether that's cigarettes, you name it. If it's in my car is part of my home. Now, we're not talking about taking firearms out of automobiles. We're talking about strictly held in the automobile. And if they don't come out, I'm not really understanding how that could ever be an issue.
I would like to say, you ask about your house, and I'm personally, I feel like that's kind of a apples and oranges kind of thing, because I don't have, my driveway isn't held out to the public as a place for anybody to come park their car, and I'm not an employer, and I say I have a place if you work for me that you can all come park your car. I'd like to think anybody who drives up my driveway is coming to see me, which that might be wishful thinking, but I would think, I personally think it's a courtesy. If I knew that I was coming to your house and I knew that you had an objection to my firearm, I would leave it in the car for sure. I wouldn't even ask if I could bring it in your house. But if you did tell me, I would rather you not park your car in my driveway if there's a firearm in it. It's your driveway. I would honor that. But my employer's parking lot's not that. I don't really have much of an option. I can choose not to come visit you.
But can't you choose not to go to work? There's no requirement for you to take a job at a place that you don't feel welcome, is there?
Well, in today's economy, I don't know how many people are willing to just say, I don't think I'm coming to work today. And I've been there for 32 years. There's a lot at stake for me to just walk out the door and say, hasta la vista.
But there's no requirement for them to provide parking for you. Do you think there is? I mean, do you think that there's a legal obligation for them to provide parking for you?
Whether there's a legal obligation, I don't know. But when you have probably close to 10,000 cars, they all can't park on the street.